Happy New Year, killer awesome truckers. It's that time again for Trucker Talk, Talk and Walk and Talk. What are we going to talk about? Well, I want to talk a little bit more about Swift and my experiences with them, just to kind of follow up on some. Oh my, I think I trimmed a little too close there. Whoops. Wow, that is really noticeable. Okay. Anyway, that's not my good side. Maybe I should do this side. Okay, anyway, that looks much better. Okay, so yeah, I want to follow up a little bit more on Swift and my experiences since I'm no longer with them. And yes, I resigned. Okay, I was not fired. Although there are some that are like, you're lying. Why? Why would I be lying about such a thing? I mean, I was on the casual fleet, so I got no motivation to make it up. Okay? It just was not working out between Swift and I. That's all there is to it. There's nothing more than that. Okay, so stop looking into it. Stop making it something that it's not. With that said, I'll say this again: Swift is not a horrible company. There are companies out there that are absolutely worse. Have I been to them? No. But I've read comments about some of these other companies. I've read bad experiences especially from Rail, which really surprised me. Because I was going to go to Rail for flatbed to start off with. And also, they train on manual, on stick shift. But I decided, instead of having to go all the way out to Gary, Indiana, that I was better just going to the Phoenix terminal at Swift. And I'm glad I did. After some of the stuff that I read about Rail, they are shady. They are really shady with their schooling and stuff. And then almost as if they're looking for a reason to get rid of you, so that way they can collect that money twice, because they get grants from the government, and then they want to get money from you too. It's pretty shady, isn't it? That's just that, and lease purchase are just shady practices from these businesses who are just trying to find ways to make more money. Anyway, I'm going to cover that up. No, just ignore it. Anyway, I'm like looking at it and it's bothering me. It's just like, it's just, you can see it. Anyhow, yeah, Swift is not horrible. They are a mega carrier, which means they're not going to be the greatest thing since sliced cheese either. Okay, they're a mega carrier, they're a corporation. It's going to be just like any other. You will have good experiences, you will have bad experiences. You will come across some good people, and you will come across some bad people. I had one driver leader that was bad. I had another one that was really good. And my second driver leader, he was pretty forgiving, actually, on some of the mistakes that I did. when I was a new driver. I mean, you're a new driver. You're going to make mistakes. You're trying to figure things out, you know, as you're driving and stuff. Things that maybe your mentor didn't really go over with you or didn't really explain in detail as far as why. In order for me to understand, in order for it to click in my head, I've got to understand the reasons behind it, not just do it this way. Okay, why? You know, explain it to me so that way I can understand, I can process it, and I'll be able to actually do it. Just telling me to take a trailer back into that spot, get out and look, tells me nothing. Okay. Does it tell me how to set up? No. Does it tell me about looking at the tandems and making that trailer go where you want it to go? It doesn't really tell me that either. Now, some of it's experience, and you learn as you go. I get that. But you gotta have a little bit of explanation. This is why it works. This is why it doesn't work. So, my second driver leader was pretty forgiving and pretty understanding in regards to some of the mistakes that I made, as long as I was not making the same one, which I didn't, and as long as I didn't hit a bridge or flip the trailer or something, or getting to, you know, jackknife the trailer. As long as I didn't do those things, I was okay. And I did my best to be as careful as I could. Yeah, I had some incidents, but nothing involving like another vehicle or anything. It was more like, I mean, yeah, I kind of hit the edge of someone else's trailer, but it didn't do any damage to the trailer. It just ripped the mirror off. Mine. But then it got to a point where I just wasn't having any issues, because I knew what I could do and I knew what I couldn't do. And that's one thing. You got to learn what you can do and what you can't do. And some companies are going to force dispatch you and tell you, well, you're just going to have to get out and look. Okay? Like, you're being sent to New York City. Get a rope. Some of you know what that means. Anyways, you're being sent to New York City. Okay? And for those of you that have been there, I haven't, but I've done my research. It's bad. It's horrible. It sucks. Trying to back in a 53-foot trailer against traffic, or in some of these places where it was never meant to be a 53-foot trailer, and you're a brand new driver. I mean, yeah. They struggle. Of course they're going to struggle. You tell them to get out and look. That doesn't help. But when you can't figure out how to set up, do a proper setup. See, the thing is, you've got to do a proper setup. When you do a proper setup, then you can get out and look and make sure you don't hit anything. If you can't get set up properly, getting out and looking isn't going to do a damn thing for you. The only thing it's going to do is tell you, this ain't going to work. That's been my experience. Getting out and looking doesn't really, it didn't tell me what I needed to know later on, I could look at something and say, okay, I need to adjust myself a little bit and try it again. But in some places that are completely tight, where you have to do a 90, yeah, I mean, you're just asking for trouble. So yeah, what the freaking hell? So yeah, so you've got good driver leaders, you got good fleet managers, you got bad ones, and then we go into planners and dispatchers. I've come across those too. I've had some planners that I called, and they were really good. They were willing to work with me. I was willing to work with them. They were very polite, probably because they used to be a driver. And then, then there were some that are they just sucked. They were nasty. Saying things like, well, you're just gonna have to figure it out. Welcome to trucking. Oh, that really helps. Maybe you should just shut your mouth. That would be more helpful. Or trying to force or coerce you into taking a 5-mile live grocery load. Those of you who know, grocery loads tend to take forever at a warehouse. Not so bad at an actual store, but at a warehouse, they take things off, they sit there and they verify the pallet, yada yada yada. You waste a lot of time with that, and then you have to fight to get your detention pay. It's really annoying. Okay, so here's another reason why Swift is not a bad company. Inward facing cameras, okay? That is a big thing with Prime Incorporated right now. And I was also kind of interested in them at one time. Absolutely not now. Inward facing cameras, they're not there to help you. They're to help the company. You might think it's there to help you, but let's be honest, it's not, because if you get an accident, a prosecutor is going to try to find any little thing they can in that video to incriminate you. And then, in some cases, the company doesn't have to worry about it. But other cases, they're still getting sued. Nuclear judgments. And also, it's an invasion of privacy. Now, the trucks that we have with my security company, they do have inward-facing cameras. They're there for insurance reasons. The thing is that our officers, they don't live in the truck. They shouldn't be. Yeah, they don't live in the truck. We do have the ability to get a live feed sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't work. But we're not sitting there micromanaging. I work in dispatch, for those of you who don't know. We don't sit there, we don't micromanage. Okay, that's a supervisor thing, and they don't really have time for it. If anything, we're just kind of keeping an eye on things, making sure that people aren't sleeping or messing around when they should be doing their job. Obviously, if you're driving a semi-truck, you're doing your job. You know what I mean? So yeah, when it comes to inward-facing cameras, I'm okay with it with the security trucks that we have. I am not okay with it when it comes to semi-trucks, because your drivers, they live in those trucks. And they can pull up a live feed. Don't let them think. They'll tell you, "Oh no, it only keeps it recording when something happens." That's crap. Well, the recording part, that is true. It does not record continuously where they can just pull up the video and just watch it for the 8 hours to try to find something. No, that is not true. That's not how our cameras operate. However, you can pull up a live feed. We can. I know the trucking companies can. So don't let them tell you otherwise. Okay, they're lying. It's a trucking company. Of course they're going to lie. Another thing that I wasn't sure in regards to inward-facing cameras, do they record all the time? Can you get a live feed all the time? Here's the answer. It depends on the camera. The cameras that we have in our trucks, if there's no power to the truck, the camera doesn't work. The camera's got to get power from the truck. It's got to be on in order for it to start sending a signal. But they do have cameras that will stay on if they've got their own battery source, or if they're connected to the battery of the vehicle. But yeah, some of the companies out there, they have inward facing cameras, but they don't micromanage you. They figure they don't need to micromanage you unless you're a problem. Other ones, they just treat drivers like trash, and they will micromanage every little thing that you do, like they know what it's like to be a driver. Swift is not like that. So that's why I'm saying there are several reasons why Swift is not a bad company. The pay is not the greatest. Right now, with the way the market is, trying to get miles is not an easy thing. Or at least for me, it was not an easy thing. I sure as hell tried. But we'll get to that here in a moment. Here's another reason why Swift is not a bad company. No forced dispatch. Okay? You will get planned first. You can look at that plan. If it does not work, like you're going to be late, or it's to an area that you're not comfortable going, you can reject that load and put in a reason. Now, you may not get another load right away, but you can reject the load. So you are not forced dispatch. And on that same token, if the weather is bad, you can send a macro 22 stating that you will be late, and this is why you're going to be late. So you're not going to get I forgot what it was called. When you're late and you say that you're not going to be late, it's a violation, or I don't know. Some of you remember what it was. Service failure. There it is. Service failure. So as long as you send your Mac 22, you're not going to get a service failure. And as long as you take notes and explain the reasons, you're not going to get a service failure. And some of these dispatchers are really good. They'll contact you and say, hey, can you explain this a little bit? Or we can get this rescheduled, but it's not going to be until la da 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 da. And if you reject a load, they may contact you and say, hey, this is all we've got to get you from where you're at to somewhere that's going to be loads. So it's all about communication, really. And some of those dispatchers and planners are really good, and some just maybe they're new and they just don't get it. I don't know. And then when it comes to the weather, there are times Swift will say to you, shut it down, don't drive. And those that force themselves, sometimes they get in trouble with Swift because we told you to shut down. But yeah, some other reasons that you might want to consider Swift as far as a company driver: do not go lease purchase. Never do that with a company. That's a whole nother video on itself. But health benefits is a good reason. Actually, the health benefits were not that bad. They were actually pretty decent. They sure as hell are better than where I am at now. The other thing is stability. Okay, with a big corporation like Swift, they're not going to go bankrupt. They're not going to be bought out by another company. Let's not count what happened between Knight and Swift, where Knight bought Swift. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it is very unlikely that something like that is going to happen. If anything, Swift is just going to buy out more companies. So you've got stability. And sometimes that's all people want. They want a place they can go that's going to give them stability, where they can manage themselves and not be micromanaged, have company benefits, and have a place to stay, the truck, while they're working. And that's totally fine. So if you're just trying to keep it simple and try to keep things stable, Swift is not a bad company at all. Now, let's talk about money. Now, I've mentioned this in other videos that when I first started, the money was good because I was getting $1,000 guarantee every week. So you better believe that they were running me to get their money's worth. But that stopped after the first 6 months, and the further and further along it got, which sucks because I understood things better the later as I went, as opposed to the first 6 months where I got myself into issues because I didn't really, understand stuff. And then, of course, the market just started getting really bad, too. And I think they were doing this with all drivers, or most of them. They were capping them at about $1,000 or less. Partly, I think, is because they're trying to evenly distribute loads so that way everyone's getting a chance to make money. I've had sometimes some where I would be in a great situation to be able to run for a week. Started off with some great loads, an 800-mile load, a 1,000-mile load. Get to the end of the week, 150, 200 live load. Have to sit and wait over the weekend. And man, I really tried. They say, hey, you can run 500 to 600 miles a day, make some good money. That's true. You can, if you get the loads. If you get the loads and you're not having to sit and waste your time waiting for another load or live loads, yeah, you can make pretty good money. And I did when I started off. But and this kind of ties in with the good planners and the good dispatchers. I was told from more than one source that these planners and dispatchers keep a list of good drivers and bad drivers. They have a good list and they have a bad list. Is some of it justified? Sure. Because there are some drivers that just don't care and they're just going to be lazy. And then there are other drivers that are really trying their best. But I believe there's a lot of discrimination behind that, where they make judgment calls on people that, where there's valid reasons why they were late or why they didn't take a certain load. There's valid reasons for that, and they just discriminate against them and just like, I'm just not going to give you anything. And so what happens then? Then you've got drivers that are forcing themselves to do something that they shouldn't, and they get in trouble. They violate their hours of service. They wind up getting in a wreck. They wind up bumping into something because they're in places they don't have experience or the skill to do. You know what I mean. But yeah, and my driver leader, he tried to get me into an area that would give me some miles. The thing is, I was okay if I could get a consistent 300 miles at least a day. That's not asking for much, because in 7 days that's 2,000 miles. You know, you got yourself $1,000 a week check there. I couldn't even get that. And that's all I was trying to do. And he got me in a Great Lakes area where it would be a specific route. Well, it wasn't really specific, but it covered certain areas, and that still didn't work. I was still getting live loads, live unloads. And so those are some issues you may come across. And there's going to be other mega carriers that are going to have that problem too. So that's not really a Swift issue. That's a market issue. But yeah, so I mean, I'm going to stand by what I say, that Swift is not a bad company. They're not necessarily the best company out there, because, I mean, you can do better in some cases. You can make more money somewhere else if that's what you want to do. Or you have more opportunities somewhere else, like tankers, for example. You're not going to get any tanker experience at Swift. Would I go back to Swift? Sure. I don't have any problems with going back to Swift. I would like to explore around a little bit before doing that. I'm interested in checking out Crete I'm also interested in checking out some local work, like with tankers, for example. But yeah, I am not against going back to Swift. It doesn't necessarily mean that I will, but I'm not against the idea. So there you go. That's my feelings about Swift. For those of you who are thinking about Swift, I hope that helps you. Okay, you're going to see a lot of videos out there of people giving it. Everyone's experience is going to be different, of course it is. But you're not always going to get. Sometimes you won't always get the full story. I'm trying to be as transparent as I can, because if I'm not transparent, it doesn't help you at all. All right. But yeah, if you've worked for Swift before, let me know. Let me know your experiences. If you're thinking about going to Swift and you got questions, leave it in the comments. I'll do my best to try to help you out. When it comes to comments, I do my best to answer everyone's comment if it needs a response. Sometimes, if someone says, hey, great video, I really enjoyed that, or I found it really helpful, that doesn't really need a response, maybe a thank you. But yeah, there are some that don't require responses. But other than that, I would say that I respond between 90 and 95% of the comments that I get, just because I feel like if you're going to take the time to comment, then I want to take the time to respond to you. But yeah, so we'll have some more to talk about, I'm sure, in the weeks to come. Until then, we'll see you later. Have a killer awesome day.